The total number of patients we see at the end of the year is around 267,000 patients.
Wow. Confanoche Nankasa is your whole city in itself. I mean,
your staff strength
6,000.
Yes, your staff strength higher than the staff strength of KNUST.
Wow. As the CEO of Confanoche,
right.
I mean, one of Ghana's biggest teaching hospitals. Right. How is it like? I mean,
the challenges at Confanoche are a little bit more unique.
Okay.
Yeah, you will be a free bed be so the call ward no. Makoji ubisika.
Or the bed we am
or the bed na mano.
So we can consider kaka.
Ship di la yeah. At the corner ship di la no operation no do right can come boy do house there do unu aniti.
Mom, that to be a good leader. Also you were doing say Uji tum say ube step on something.
Yes. I have relationships that have been strained. Okay. And I've lost friends. The truth is, Ubusami said, do I regret it?
Yeah.
I hope that those things haven't happened.
Okay.
But if I'm to relive my life again,
you still do it.
I'll still do it.
Okay. If
today, before I leave this studio, I'm told, so your position there is no longer tenable. So, praise you.
Good evening. The BKB show back. Nene said Addai and yes, our very special guest. In fact, and you have been coming across your health sector no, and of course, personality na ne nyano no. Ono muzi be run abrabom kakra. Na ye na twem komo. Professor Dr. Addai Mensah. And guess ba me unza the last time we share ya aboafo esquire me bisa asem Ghana ha say lawyers in kwanya omo profession di omo di anim. As a lawyer ya aboafo.
Right.
And Professor Dr. Because the professor about Professor Dr.
Right.
Okay,
so what it is, Bright Medase, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I've watched a few of the shows, and I think you are doing a great job.
Thank you.
But quite apart from the BKB show, what you do on regular radio, and so one of the things I've been following.
Thank you.
Kudos. Our nomenclature depends on where you were trained.
Okay.
And if you were trained in the US, for example,
okay,
now you're a medical doctor. Usually, you write MD at the end of Udin.
Udin, okay.
A referral doctor, so and so. And sometimes, even when you have become a professor, a referral doctor, so and so, who is a professor of maybe hematology.
Okay.
Right. In UK, it's a similar thing. In Germany, it's different.
Okay.
In Germany, okay, so we were a medical school about 23 years ago.
Okay.
And that gives me an MBCHB, which is a doctor.
Okay.
And then I do the PhD in Germany, and also a doctor.
Okay.
Right. Now, presently, all medical doctors in Ghana have a doctor med to distinguish them from other doctorate degree holders.
Okay.
What did I say? Now, for those who are trained in UK and other places, say, or a doctor, not a professor, he becomes Professor Bright can come with.
Okay.
But a trainee in Germany, or a professor, Dr. Bright can come with.
Okay.
But so a Dr. Med can come with. Or be a professor, Dr. Med Bright can come with.
Okay.
It is about nomenclature, where you were trained and what nomenclature you decide to adopt.
Oh, okay.
There are many people who ask these questions. Sometimes they almost say, maybe you have a fetish with titles.
Yeah, so you'll be our purpose.
But so far as I'm concerned, I'm sure you know this, that I don't care if you call me Mozart, if you call me Addai Mensah. In fact, the Vice Chancellor calls me Mozart.
Okay.
My students friend me Mozart.
Okay.
There are some staff of Confanoche who call me Mozart.
Okay.
I have absolutely no problems with them.
Okay.
But if you care to use the titles, then you use them correctly.
Correctly, okay.
And if you want to call me using my titles,
okay.
I'm Professor Dr. Med or Addai Mensah.
Wow. School. Well, as the CEO of Confanoche,
right.
I mean, one of Ghana's biggest teaching hospitals. Right. Confanoche survey a lot of regions, right. Even though say Ashanti region, right. Survey up north. Hey, how is it like? I mean, when you need about but you're able to manage this.
Right. I'm the youngest chief executive officer Confanoche has had.
Wow.
In fact, Professor I've forgotten the name.
Okay.
After no, in Siansari by.
Okay.
Asafoje is
Okay,
what I wanted to
yeah.
remember. Professor Asafoje.
Okay.
After Professor Asafoje, Dr. Insiansari. After Dr. Insiansari, Dr. Ohine J. Baye.
Okay.
Dr. Ohine J. Baye, no. Dr. Akpalu. Dr. Akpalu Baye, no. Dr. Ohine Danso. Then I came after Dr. Ohine Danso. Of all these people, Minami, the youngest.
The youngest, okay.
But it poses quite a big challenge for me. And it's because of my perception of leadership and who or what I represent. I have always believed that se unya akwenya na uko the position be a leadership positioner, you do not only represent yourself, but you represent a certain group of people, a certain category of people. Okay. In this instance, we are living in a country where until very recently people had issues with the fact that would be a young and Yamane position. And for me, CEO 2022, 3 years ago, I was 47 years. Okay. Because I'm 50 now. I was 50 on the 6th of March.
Okay.
Now, what it is here, say, unya sa kwenyana, you need to state the case of the young folks.
The young folks, yeah.
You need to be able to demonstrate that given the chance, they can perform.
Okay.
And sa position, I was looking at one, my reputation.
Okay.
At stake. And two, the people I represent. The people I represent are people like you.
Yeah.
The average young Ghanaian who is aspiring, say, the position be. But like leadership everywhere, Komfanoche offers some challenges. I'm sure Ubia one had the opportunity to lead in an organization like Komfanoche would attest to. But the challenges at Komfanoche are a little bit more unique.
Okay.
Unique in the sense that you are dealing with quite a large number of people. My staff strength presently about 6,000.
Wow.
I have about 1,200, 1,300 doctors. I have about close to 3,000 nurses. I have pharmacists, 45 plus 69. So I have about 120 pharmacists. I have pharmacy technicians, accountants, orderlies, and what have you, all manner of people.
Yeah.
And I also say, background affects their understanding, their perception of issues.
Yeah.
And the health sector is one area where you have, well, I don't want to call it competition, but competing interests. A small.
Yeah.
Inti we feel say or no na due way. Or we also feel say or no say I'm referring to the various cadres.
Of course.
And that's one major challenge Komfanoche offers.
Okay.
Two, Komfanoche was built in 1954, started its operations in 1955.
Okay.
And you would agree with me that over time, a certain culture, subculture develops. People get used to a certain way of doing things. Until when you come on board, now a certain mindset, a certain perception, a certain view of how things should be done. The process of change management should be done very deftly.
Yeah.
So when you're careful, you create problems.
Yeah.
Until I was telling somebody the other time, said there are 4 issues that are happening at Komfanoche, which issues have to be dealt with.
Okay.
You take one, deal with it. Immediately you finish, you don't go on to the next one.
Yeah.
Also, trying kakra.
I would say we are settled in.
And yes, sir, you have a revolt.
Okay.
Because once change is affecting a NIPA and the benefits they stood to gain from
Previous
status quo
system,
ante,
yeah.
then what happens here? Say, and so or no, if kida A affected, why your changes be? Now as a new home fire, papa, na kida B, pasanko or kida C, no kida C, D. Then you have a picture. And so that's one of the major problems. Now, the unique challenges Komfanoche offered. Then I had my child, they were in university for 16, 17 years. Okay. So there's a certain culture, certain subculture in the university. Which culture or subculture is very different from what happens at Komfanoche. Okay. Now, I'll give you an example. Komfanoche, if the orderly does not clean well, chief executive officer. If the nurse is rude to a patient, chief executive officer.
Yeah.
If Obi alleged Dr. Bia Jenisika, one man receipt, a chief executive officer.
Okay.
In the university, it's not like that.
Yeah.
The decentralization process that we're investing in works so well, such that
The head of
departments have responsibilities.
Yeah.
The deans have responsibilities.
Yeah.
The provosts have responsibilities. Pro VC and then of course the VC.
The VC, yeah.
At Confanoche, Mekai said one of the rudest shocks I had at Confanoche when I started was when a friend is saying, funeral grant, 100 cedis, above for my approval. 100 cedis.
100 cedis.
Yes. I didn't think that was a good use of my time. There's a director of administration.
Yeah.
A very experienced administrator who headed friends and health institutions, not less than 3. He should be able to handle certain responsibilities and refer them to me when he has issues. So this was one of the challenges I had to deal with. Then again, there are 7 directors in the work on Fanoche under you. And then you have deputy directors, about 5 or thereabout. And then heads and then they kick out. Now, if you have 7 directors who are used to a particular way of doing things, now the change.
There'll be pushback.
Today, if I had the opportunity to be the appointing authority, now I appoint you be a second Fanoche, I would grant him the opportunity to come along with a minimum of 3 directors.
Okay. As in a team.
As in a team or the Omaba.
Okay.
It happens in places like Boston, MP, or the group. Until due time, I also occur. A bit of my uncle for because we before from so sober. And I said, the power for no body feels so uncle for monka. Now we more free honor for bar. That's fine. But then the next point, thresholds.
Okay.
The head of obstetrics and gynecology, almost 465 staff, and it's probably bigger than any regional hospital in the country at the moment.
Okay.
And yet, the threshold, 700 cedis. What it means is that if there's an item to be bought for the use of the department or directorate, as we call it, now more than 700, just a barber CEO. I didn't think it made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But at KNUST, when I was Deputy Director of Student Affairs, I had a friend say a threshold of 20,000.
KNUST?
Yes. Deans, 10,000. Provosts have 20,000. Yes, and they sign their checks. Then the head of Directorate of Obstetrics and Gynecology at Confanoche or of surgery at Confanoche, which directorate is bigger than probably the biggest regional hospital in the country at the moment, has a threshold of 700. So naturally, there's a certain sense of responsibility is taken away from them.
Yeah.
In the idea was almost near because Sika Semino Okokudra hits a barrier. Until they're within 700. What can 700 cities do? And so one of the things that I, together with my management, have done, is a devolution process. We are piloting it, which grants a certain percentage of the total amount of money, revenue, directly to be generated back to them.
Okay.
When it happens like that, so be a bad near now or call abra own tiaya, the director management team, any break. Because the amount of money that comes to them at the end of the day is a percentage of how much they have been able to generate.
Yeah.
Now, as we speak, the total amount of money about as a percentage of the revenue generated between 2 and 7%. But when we start this devolution exercise, up to about 20% of the total amount generated will come back to them for their use.
Okay.
But of course, in doing that, there's the need to have very pragmatic and robust auditing and accounting systems.
Because you're human beings, you need
procurement
to check
systems.
Yeah.
So you're careful.
Yeah.
But the ultimate responsibility rests with me. Yeah. Then the other thing, the fact that I was born and bred here in Kumasi, I lived all my life here in Kumasi, except for education, UK, Germany, US. I trained at Confanoche. I have friends at Confanoche, classmates.
Okay.
People I have very deep relationships with.
Okay.
Confanoche. When there's a need for you to crack the whip, it becomes a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
And because of the kind of culture that had existed, people were not used to the fact that Bright Kankambo Eminia, he's aired on this. This is what the rule says.
Yeah.
We are applying it. Bright Kankambo has a problem with me. Because he thinks that Miniano, my bonimpa,
The coin be a bit me dealing with.
Meanwhile, sheep dealer, I a similar thing, and sheep dealer has been punished.
Yeah.
Oh, see, they sit here.
Yeah.
And as I sit here, I have relationships that have been strained,
Okay.
and I've lost friends. The truth is, Ubusami said, do I regret it?
Yeah.
I hope that those things hadn't happened.
Okay.
But if I'm to relive my life again,
You still do it.
I'll still do it.
Okay.
I believe that that's what leadership is. There's a price to pay.
Yeah.
And that is the price I'm having to pay. I pray and hope that one day, when they have had the presence of mind to think through life and the happenings in life, they will come to appreciate that, well, those things were not done out of malice.
Okay.
But they were done because there were rules and regulations that had to be followed. And there was a need for us to crack the whip in order to ensure that the hospital develops. So those are some of the challenges I've had to face.
Which means that to be a good leader, also you were arguing, say, Ujitum say, Ube step you on some tools.
Yes, and I keep telling them at the various debates, I apologize for those on whose toes I have stepped, and tell them, say, some of them were unintentional.
Okay.
Some of them were intentional, and for both, I apologize. But for those that were intentional, if it happens again,
Okay. Confano Chinanga says, you're going to your whole city in itself. I mean,
your staff strength
6,000.
Yes, your staff strength higher than the staff strength of KNUST.
Wow.
Every day on the average, you have 1,086 patients from Monday through to Friday. 1,086 every day.
Every day.
Specialist clinics. Okay. Specialist clinics. Not just polyclinics.
Okay.
Okay. Now see. The total number of patients we see at the end of the year are around 267,000 patients.
Wow.
Let's do a comparison. KNUST is responsible for 85,000 students every year. That's the total student number per year.
Okay.
It's around 85,000.
Okay.
The total patient numbers per year. OPDs.
Okay.
267.
Wow.
1,000.
That's huge.
What's the mission?
Yeah.
We are responsible for referrals from not less than 10, but at last count it was 12 out of the 16 regions in Ghana.
Okay.
We have referrals from Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, any other places. Yes. They come. That's
So
what it is.
And we name the health challenges in Ghana, of course. There are places where and then everybody utum for project and something we are all in support.
Right.
How did it come about? Why not go to the name?
Okay.
And a man yes obey a project.
Okay, Didi Kanye. Had it not been for Ntumfo, I would not have started work at Confanoche as the chief executive officer, although a letter had been written.
Okay, well, then I guess I also be quite check with this question. Mekai said, your appointment.
Yes.
2017. 2017.
March. The appointment letter was dated 7th March 2017.
And now, who decided to say, appointment?
2017.
Yeah.
Mensah, it was 7th of March. The letter was dated 7th March 2017.
Okay.
Mensah letter, no, 22nd March 2017. 21 clear days.
After the letter was...
In fact, I had calls from, one of the people I had a call from was Gifty Clenham.
Okay.
She had called to find out from me why I hadn't turned up at Ghana Standards Authority as executive director per the appointment letter that had been given. I hadn't had my copy of the appointment letter, but Ghana Standards Authority had had a copy of the appointment letter. All the other people who were copied had theirs. So eventually when I had the appointment letter, I was going to introduce myself to the sector minister on the 2nd of April 2017. I think it was a Monday.
Okay.
Then I could start work. Me wana minya call free as in Sobacho.
Okay.
So the president wanted to see me. I'm so I there. And also I say the appointment but it looks as if I'm for Kasa and they say me I was not in support of the president and so on.
Because now you're Alan boy.
Yes, no. But initially was you're not in support of the president. And then yes, you're Alan Afuku boy. Okay. So I was given a choice, either Monday or Tuesday. So I chose Tuesday. And it was because I wanted to have time to reflect.
Okay.
Until the 2nd of April, if I'm right, it was a Monday. I spent the whole day at home in bed, thinking, putting my thoughts together.
Okay.
So the following day, I was told to be there around 11. I got there at exactly 11. I got to see the president at 1. Until immediately I entered, I greeted him. And I started a conversation and say, yeah, well, he's giving me an appointment on the strength of recommendation from, but it looks as if he's made it. Everybody is talking about it. You would have noticed that as I'm being invasive with what he said, because didn't come out.
Of course, yeah.
It is not fair that you sit somewhere.
And yes, of course, I very much.
And said, I'm happy that I've had the opportunity to meet him like this. Because I have praised him, but I have also criticized him. Mm-hmm. And that as I sat in front of him, I stood by the criticisms and I stood by the praises. And that if those things were to happen again, based on the same set of facts and information I'll offer the same criticisms.
You said that to him?
Yes.
In his face?
Yes.
The president?
Yes.
I
was with him and Honorable Asenso Boakye.
Okay.
In that office. 5.5 years later, I was going to be in that same room with him and Honorable Asenso Boakye, just the three of us.
Okay.
And that is what culminated in me becoming the chief executive of Confanoche. Exactly 5.5 years. Okay. So I told him. And I made references to, I said, Afoku, because I had never met Afoku.
Okay.
I had never met Alancha Martin.
Okay.
It just happened that my views on issues that had happened
aligned with
the supporters of Alancha Martin views.
Okay.
What's the mission?
Okay.
I'll give you examples. So at any point in time when BBBC or NPP, the presidential candidate was away. What's his name? Oh, my good friend. Kwabena Japan. Anytime I saw the BBC president in Europe, it was becoming too much of a coincidence. There were views I held, which views I hold today. I am sure that perchance, if a hearing or an ear was given to those things, and or time papai into no same way, maybe, just maybe, the present happenings would have been different.
Okay.
But okay. So the conversation went on like that, and permit me, because
of course, and
I told him, say, well, I want him to be successful. I want him to be popular. If giving me this appointment was going to make him unpopular or unsuccessful, I want to go back to the class to go and teach. But I appreciate that appointment letter that has his signature on green, and that I was going to hang it on the wall in my office. It's a very cherished document.
Okay.
But I thank him for the opportunity he gave me. And I'm sorry, and I'm a chair. So later on, I had a conversation with the Honorable Asenso Boakye. He said, so what's going to happen? I'm going to write to decline the appointment. And I did exactly that.
Okay.
In fact, let me speculate that it appeared as though what I was expected to do
is what you did
was to apologize and say that
okay. President Mankanesa
so that
and I'm on Timasina, yeah,
you see, it is better to die on your feet than to live on your knees.
You look like a very principled person.
Well, I try.
Okay.
And there's the need for consistency in all the things you do. And around that time, I knew that there were going to be 2 Land Cruisers at your disposal, a saloon car, a house at cantonments. But you see,
for a young man,
yes. But you see,
as Americans, that time now 40.
Oh yeah,
mid-40s.
Yeah, 2017 I was 42.
42. Oh.
What the mention?
By now, what tall estate houses he bear 12.
You see,
back you could hold them.
Onim say, if I had gone in as the executive director of Ghana Standards Authority, I doubt if I would have been able to make the kind of impact I believe I have been able to make. See, then I was 2017, I was a senior lecturer. Because I became a senior lecturer in 2016.
Okay.
Subsequently, I became dean. I became associate professor. I became a member of the University Council. Okay. I chaired very important committees, including reappointment of registrar, extension of the term of registrar, director of works, provost, college of science, ideal director, and so on and so forth. Inti value was added.
Yeah.
Inti I came to this position with a lot of experience, because when you come into Confanoche, I had been HOD for 5 years.
Okay.
I had been dean of faculty for 1 year. I had been vice dean of students for 3 years, deputy director of student affairs for 1.5 years or so. I had been national vice president of UTAC. I had been UTAC president KNUST. I had been board member Nurse and Midwifery Council.
Okay.
Contrast that with who I was 2017 March, 2017 April.
Okay.
A world of difference.
Yeah.
Mistake that.
Yeah.
And I believe I've been at Confanoche for 2 years. This is the 5th month. In the 2 years and 5 months. End of April will be exactly 2 years, 5 months since I took over at Confanoche from the 1st of December 2022. And I believe that Sani Manina happened for a reason.
Okay.
There were people who said a lot of things then.
Okay.
They subsequently came to me, knelt and apologized for calling me names. There were people who took to Facebook to apologize publicly on the kind of things they had done, the kind of things they had said about me and all that. I don't bear grudges.
Okay.
They are good friends of mine now. I relate to them very well. When they need help and they call me and I'm in a position to help, right, I gladly do.
Oh, that's good.
What I say. Inti, I believe that I was being prepared. I have always said this, that my favorite scripture is John chapter 4, verse 4. Okay. And he must need go through Samaria.
Okay.
Jesus had to go through Samaria. Otherwise, that Samaritan woman would not have gotten salvation. Not only her, the very many men he witnessed to, because of the kind of trade he was involved in, would not have come to the saving knowledge of Christ had Jesus not gone through Samaria with his friends, with his disciples. But he had told his disciples, he had forbidden them not to go through Samaria because of the kind of reproach that Samaria was associated with.
Okay.
But he needed to go through things. And so we need to go through certain things sometimes. It be a preparatory. It be for us to know the power of God. It be for us to know that, look, and that the things that happen. And there's a popular example I've always given, that there's a friend of mine. He's been married for about 24 years, or Kolebu, or a fertility specialist. There are many women out there who would attribute their
childbirth
to him. But guess what? Thank you. And when I sit to think through it, one of the things that comes to mind is it God's way of telling him that, yeah, well, you understand? You understand the point?
Yeah.
That has been it. I am setting that I needed to go through a certain process. And that process
prepared me. Yeah, we'll see. And this current.
Right.
How?
Okay, so see, a letter was written on the 2nd of November, dated the 2nd of November, to the Minister of Health at the time, for the minister to then liaise with the board, because appointments of CEOs are done by boards.
Okay, yeah.
For the board to effect.
Yeah.
From 2nd, said the Beya minister ne be minute so at the Abre board.
Okay.
Now board are taking action.
And also Akoyasem.
Otumfo personally intervened.
Okay.
Munyai me nana no nko enadwuma.
Yeah.
So he had to crack the whip. It was on the basis of that I got the opportunity to become CEO.
Wow.
Now, when I became CEO, the first very important visit I had, or we had as a hospital, was the president. It was because a very important paramount chief had been admitted. And as a rule of thumb, anytime a very important personality is admitted at Confanoche, I was a Bob Menchia.
Yeah.
I was the political head of the regional mania.
Regional
Said
minister.
the certain courtesies Also, a man, the cats, it is not to deconconcern. But it serves the political establishment better.
Yeah.
And it serves Mensah better. So the president by now, Addai Mensah, and Krura.
Okay.
In both instances, I had the opportunity to have a tete-a-tete. And I told the president, said, the president, thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity you have given me. But every time we say, see, I knew whom Bibia. I said the same thing to Krura. The Krura as well. And to me, putting them together, I mean, how best this can be done. But that, on no one, any,
Okay.
So I put a team together. Very young men. Samuel Duboache, Jerry Owusu-Ansah, Iceman, architect here, or PW, Kojo Asante, PWD regional engineer. There's a lady called Abina. She's on UTV now, no Kantanka.
Okay.
Fair lady.
Okay.
Or morning show.
Yeah.
Abina, Ekaho, Marilyn, she's a nurse at Confanoche. Kwame Frimpong, PR. Kwame Frimpong is an institution. He very good institutional memory of Confanoche.
Okay.
And to Osan Obopa, I had support from my director of administration, director of finance, Omunina. So we put together a plan, a budget, prepared a brochure, and subsequently submitted to Ohene. Me CEO 1st of December 2022. Yedimiko Kochira Ohene 31st May, exactly 6 months, 2024, 2023. And Sana Yedimiko Kochira Ohene. Meanwhile, KNUST, a friend, SRC president, near Nakwa Kochira. In Tunim, there was a lot of pressure that was building up. Say, hey, then, your friend is saying,
see you Confanoche now.
Every board meeting, and I Confanoche board, no, every month. Every month.
That's the Mvango.
Debbie. Inti aya any kuya for starting ye dede.
Ayane for the sake of
Ayaye Ashanti Youth Association,
Yes.
Kumasi Youth Association.
Yeah.
I'm starting ye dede. Because some of them came to me. Say, Masa,
and I'm a chair.
and I'm a chair. And I'm be a closet much room. Drinks are here. They have been ready since December. And I appointed, so I will go through a certain process, Public Services Commission interviews. And then I had done that. My interview was on the 29th of December 2022. I had gone for that interview and passed. And then into a substantive CEO and all. But then, anyway, I had had the opportunity to visit the king twice. It was here, unknown to them.
Okay.
Into when they thought that this was the first time out, the conversation that ensued made references to the first meeting, the second meeting, and I do and then Kika home. But you would agree with me that Confanoche has traditional historical and traditional cultural and historical links with Mensah. Because a honor sword you see. And now if you know the history about the sword here, I am for. If you try Mamore, Guso, Pamo and Guso, in the share form,
the
symbol of unity.
Yeah.
At the time, in the year 2 to our decay. When everything had been done and presented to the king, also no percent or better now or outdoor oil launch.
Okay.
He chose the 10th of November 2023. Incidentally, Addai did so nisi hone fufi de fiada. 10th of November so ne fiada. Unim. The king had every reason not to be present. Nan can conform represent. But he said so it was because of the importance he attaches to the health of not only people in Ashanti, because Confanoche does not only serve the people in Ashanti.
Like you're saying, Burkina Faso.
On the day you remember, he said that Minana no more. It was slim and then kika hunina. I no more yaria. I'll tell you this. As we speak, Uyi Konfanochi Frima, there is no single hospital up north from Konfanochi Kostra, your emergency physician. Yes. It's the reason why in your flooding Bebre, today, as we speak, the total number of patients are it was a Konfanochi Orange Ward. Inya 12. And the total number of patients
49.
49.
12 no 49.
49. So the quality of care.
Yeah.
And one you're careful, lawsuits. Yeah. Because the quality of care and up to where it ought to get to. And to say if we become insistent, say 12 never say about in the 12 now, what becomes of the other your friend is saying?
That was
37.
37 normal good. So there's a almost you know.
And the moment you ask a patient to go, because what now your man, you are practically asking him to go and die. Because there's no other place in this area, jurisdiction where more.
Which means quality healthcare,
the kind of healthcare he's supposed to get. But and so on the 10th, let's go back to the story. On the 10th of November, the king sat offering penina. And of course, it's given your influence, your following, your popularity. I have said it and I would repeat it. If HEFRA, Health Facilities Regulatory Authority, the institution are responsible for accrediting hospitals for operations.
Okay.
If they were minded, that's our part of the hospital. They are closing down. Why? Because they're fit for purpose. But do you know why HEFRA would be hesitant in doing so? I've already told you the number of regions we serve.
Yeah.
I've told you the number of patients we see in a day.
So if you close it, that means go home and die. People should go home and
what
die.
should happen? What would happen to Sir Inipana? So that has been the challenge.
Okay.
But the king, he has led all the way. In less than 1.5 years, he had visited with us 3 times.
Yeah. That's a nice one. Share works.
Yes. And one of the interesting thing, sometimes people go and say, yeah. Once that people were expecting that we were calling her and then kick home. But well, say according baby, but the work was going on in the
inside,
yeah. And there were a lot of people even within the hospital who were shocked. Say, wow, has this taking place here in this right here in this hospital? Unim, with the necessary support and the funds. Right. There's nothing we cannot do.
Okay.
So far, the first phase now, the entire roof ABCD. It was leaking. There were gaping holes. And in Shuta, patients on the last floors can sleep without fearing. Yeah, 2 blocks, 2 floors on the A block as part of the first phase. Movement started on Saturday. We are moving the patients back to those wards. Near free A2 and A1. But here we go say na chedo don't nkeka ho da bi. Enche.
Okay.
Can you imagine what would happen if in the process of moving the sick to the temporary holding areas, BBA or Mubakwa? And remember, there are a lot of detractors out there. There are a lot of people who are not happy with what is going on.
Of course, everyone can say, hey.
And no becomes the talk of town. Nancy, I want the situation be about Konfanochi water shortage and how people saw that story. No, there was an attempt to make it look as if a management problem. Right, and Kufu says, "I know boreholes." But Ghana Water had indicated to us, say between the 17th and the 19th of March, in Sio Emma. So naturally, you would prepare. Say 4 days, I prepare for 5 days. For 10 days, the water was not flowing.
Okay.
For 10 days. The only places are surgery, a halt here, a emergency hall. There are 2 theaters, in a major. But the main theatre was working.
Okay.
All the other theatres in the family planning area were working. Poly theatre were working.
But people decided to talk about.
Oh yes, but you see, naturally that is
Yeah.
what it is. No, and into Bia no come Bia. Madam for be friends, Masa. Nancy, I'm say friend. Ghana Water MD. Because it is his responsibility.
Yeah.
And I agree that we have a certain responsibility so far as storing water.
Storing water, of course. There should be backup.
There's so much we can store.
Yeah.
Beyond that, they are there.
Yeah.
And our primary mandate is not a storage facility. Our primary mandate is to provide advanced clinical care. 2, to provide training for both undergraduates and postgraduates, all spheres of the fairness and health sector.
Okay.
3, research. But of course, who hears you?
Yeah.
And there also was storage tanks, big storage tanks, boreholes. But there's a limit to how much water can be gotten or can be saved.
Yeah, exactly.
But and I'm like, really? When Ghana, when I own him, ironically, you fear,
Okay.
but no, but no, my point is that I'm not saying that if you're you feel, no, as but I'm saying that unim say because of Ghana Water Company, insure maufie, or one insure brain, in this insure. It is because also needs you only be from Ghana Water there, but no. Yeah. Can you imagine that somebody comes to the emergency area? I don't know when last you visited with us. We say, oh, it's chaotic around 3 o'clock when visitors are coming and kick out. And we'll be phone here. I say, hi, management.
Oh.
Yes, I'm telling you on radio. No, after this program, I'll tell you which radio station.
Okay.
Yes. And I'm like, how? How do you even know if Nipakrona ya empowered the phone and in any case, in your phone or dear your friend is saying, nurse is saying, keep him on your patient or a relative.
No, about on the phone. I management, you know,
management in the manager who you in the phone about Bega.
As there was managing of food,
and Bright, permit me to chip in this.
Okay, go ahead.
There's a problem. Confanoche, having said all these beautiful things about Confanoche, it's not without fault.
Of course, human institution.
Yes, and naturally, and you may be because.
Yeah.
Well, now, if I beds, once I've shown you the bed situation.
Yeah. Capacity 12, no, you say 49.
49. And there were 13 patients waiting at triage for beds.
Okay.
I don't know if the Osha
I
13 patients waiting for beds at triage. What I say? Naturally, I didn't have any people who feel so bit me cash in on the situation.
Yeah.
Into when ye be a free bed be so then call ward no. Makoji obisika.
Or the bed we are man.
Or the bed namano. I believe it happens.
Okay.
And we are taking steps to address that.
Okay.
But we will need the support of the general public.
Okay.
And then call for this idea be a deal. But you know what happens? You be asked me kokana me kochena ani yinedi. Enti ubusa o se I see me am gina obi na see say dey hen so on the new obi na obi manage on no ebe mo
adwuma. So we are not helping.
But you expect me to deal with it. How do I deal with it when you are not giving me clues as to who did what when?
Yeah. That's true.
And I'm pleading.
Okay.
So unim. Sa nima we musia. Omo draw your attention. You want to say nipa we. Yes. We as management have cracked the whip on many people across doctors, nurses. As we speak, this morning, I signed the suspension letter for one of my colleagues. 3 months suspension. Oh. Yeah. What did they mention? Okay. Yes. There's a very good friend who's like a brother.
But you had to sign it.
Yes. There's another one. They come once to meet you.
Sir?
Jack. Hey, I say.
Okay.
Minini mienu. Me ma share no de nsa tutu ni bottom. No iska. O yini de no de aka ahim.
There's only a crap preoccupy.
Yes. But right.
So we consider kakra.
Ship dealer yeah. At the corner ship dealer yeah. No partnership. No do bright. Can come boy do house there. Do union ninety.
And look at a critique a whole lot of a year about.
We would have been emasculated. Yeah, our strength would have been taken away from us. Our strength so far as ensuring discipline and consent.
Yeah.
And my expectation is that, wow, you should hold me down.
Yeah.
Nanka, a trim now, because your brother is in town. Halt.
Yeah.
Where, sir? You put me in a very tight corner.
Seriously, because sometimes taking those decisions can be very hard.
Look, and sometimes all the time.
All the time, yeah, of course.
And you're tough.
Yeah.
But you have to choose between building a solid system, purging the place of indiscipline, and allowing the status quo ante to prevail.
It becomes difficult. I know. I mean, especially with the workforce now,
Yes.
and who decided say, obey, a bit softer, especially on some of these things. A ginseng is about now phone here management. Then a ginseng there.
Yeah,
but in a situation like that, and with all those, I mean, these are very learned people.
Right.
For instance, let's even look at the doctors. Look about 1,200.
About 1,000, 2,300.
1,200, These are learned people.
Yeah.
That's just it. Yeah, then being cost, but offenses being a year. And mom decided to.
Oh.
Yeah, some negligence, maybe ne. Sanyo manana.
Usually, it be extortion.
Okay, yeah.
What that say? I do be 500 cities. I did be also go through a certain process. You don't go through that process, but you give out a report after taking Sawi, and it gets to us.
Okay.
Once upon a time, there was a patient who needed emergency surgery. Was you physical be a ma onye? I'm patch or you or down a cat is there. Atonadia. 2,000 cities. The woman leaves and comes back in 2 days with 800 cities. That's 1 year. So it gets to my attention. Na 1,002 counts. Never man. I'm watching. Right, me day.
Of course, you have to take action.
That's before we take the action. I'm not brighter from. What's that? Jack, I never say so. But who office we say I'm not brighter. Charlie. Time and because no chim in the can win a boy meal.
To be so with the German in car. The situation is very difficult. Very, very difficult. That became me show.
Right with him. Then you have a problem with him and a problem with Bright.
Yes. Because we be kind one say.
And on
also feels
you be bothered. This thing like will slow down small.
Yeah. A very difficult situation. The situation is difficult. That became me show and any Professor Dr. Med Ochi Addai Mensah and then Confanocho CEO, and we are talking about a lot of things. The challenges are facing of course, Confanocho a place and unim say one of the things I'm realizing is that even private hospitals they say good private hospital assembly years I was Fako Confanocho.
I tell you. Maternal mortality rates are very high. But you see, of 29 deaths that occurred in a given period, only 3 of them were quote-unquote bona fide patients of Confanoche. And they come in very bad states.
Okay.
What did they mention that? Once there are some private hospitals that are in a bad state. We are then. Can Confanoche do same?
I said accident to be not to make him. We do say the refund call. Because there be refund call.
Because I count mortality.
Okay.
There be.
Tom Renas.
Yeah. And if you want
Antina Hano, you could go.
Omungazi kufiko.
They said you year the sanity.
Debi.
Omunga deny
the
so could you.
Uncle Confanoche. And umbrano. Now, I said just a palliative care.
Okay.
Because maybe we are who we are, but we will accept them.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, with even what you're doing, sir, for Yes, mo nyoma koka a pot. Nani ya den.
Bright, there's a baby few. Right. Okay, Bright. So, Obusia Penny, he has a responsibility of fixing Obusia Fie.
Yes.
In a quite dilapidated state.
Yeah.
And on Sisi Cow the Bayer no.
Onibi.
And I say, offer.
Me
Now for 4. I'm so glad you are lucky.
Ship dealer.
Now ship dealer say, person or her say, one modern men now beating me abo. Now if in one I cannot the abba. Inti, what Jeffrey, had and kick home. And now I could 2 months after I was a Bright. More 20 bags of cement or tech reroad. Now, I'm coming to you, maybe. But I'm thrilled by your innovation, your creativity. Idea, why try we? In Tibra, never fat 20 bucks. And I'll call Obusu opinion now. Your offer. I'll pick up him, I'm going for 20 bucks now. I'm right. I'll see this auto petrol. Now, and sound in the car now. I'm going for cement now, baby. Jumana, no, Jumano.
Okay.
Right and gas and for.
Eventually, one of petrol. Petrol one at time.
Say a marble bem. And eventually,
It was a penny at 20 petrol.
But subsequently, no be the idea chewa. Given what you had gone through with him, now to me, hope you so to be the idea chewa. No, I so be young sika. Would be tria amaka
Diaba. Serious. My win and Cassana. So say Juma wedding your boy so you are doing a good job and clearly meaning say my position is not political.
Okay, so this is what it is. Political and not political.
Okay.
And I'm saying, obviously, like I told you, the president writes to the minister.
Okay.
Say, or nominate any pay. It goes to the board. The board approves. Then you call Public Services Commission for interview. Yeah, if you pass, then the Public Services Commission. No, there have been instances where presidents have nominated, people have failed.
Okay.
Or Public Service Commission interview. Okay. I also a nominee to be for. So that is how the appointment process goes. Now go on with the next question.
They say about
right.
What say if you are not trying to be gonna how far is away or MPP ni or MPP boy
Unima.
Me
Now I'll tell you what I believe.
Okay.
My belief is this, that people who get given positions to lead state agencies a certain responsibility not to unnecessarily politicize their positions and the institutions they lead.
Okay.
And when there has been undue politicization of the position and or the institution, it becomes very difficult for anybody to suggest that.
Continue.
Especially
when there's change of,
What did they mention? I'm sure you are asking, say, do that because and you say will be you and
you are now baby.
If today, before I leave the studio, I'm told, say your position there is no longer tenable, I'll praise God and go, because I had only one motive: to serve Ghana, serve Asantuma, serve my people.
Yeah.
I've paid my dues. My contract expires in November 2026.
Okay.
If government say, irrespective of that, in spite of that, I want you to go, Medasi, Numako. However, the government says, continue with the work you are doing up until 10 years. I will wholeheartedly work because I keep telling my family, say, bomi and mama bushia, about me, my own mind. And in the Adibia meet me aye, and the Abuamo mine, I'll do it. That is me, that's my position.
Yeah. Oh, no, oh, yeah, or Jumano, Akobasi said, Ubia Bawa, So they now come about high profile patients. If you are political, if you are this side or that side, I influence you one way or the other. So okay, also mommy all the attention.
Last year, this is public news, and I'm sure I can say it.
Okay.
The present Minister for Health, the Honorable Akando, ranking member of Health, on the Health Select Committee on Health, as he then was, had an accident. He had Nibaho 11:30. He called me at 11:30, so when he accident, he had Nibaho PM on a Saturday. 11:45 PM, I was in the hospital, Saturday. The following Sunday after church, I could do hospital, kept them in the car, Kokosheno. Then you me Kokosheno. I dare chain anopa, Monday anopa, I got my bag, and I go to work very early, 7:20 latest, na me do my office. I got a bag and I call ward or it didn't come up. Then you me before I make coffee, I say Kokosheno. I dare chain Tuesday morning, me Kokosheno, and he was discharged.
Okay.
And he went to Parliament and said it. On the floor of Parliament, I'm told, at least in the Select Committee on Health, he later said it too. Say, he came to Konfanoche and he loves the treatment he was given by the Chief Executive Officer and his management.
Okay.
He was ranking member on the Select Committee on Health.
Now
he's the substantive minister of Health.
I was going to say, anyway, but the one of the things, I'm not being a junior or CAS.
I see.
I understand why, or you're very truthful because you're training, no CAS or no, you're training at the end. Well, it looks, Yamra Wankasa also. Yamra Wankasa also. I understand, say, I've heard this story. I think you now near Kutu. Now I say, Kianwo.
Say, on a lighter note, we first side chicks in Yabro. Side chicks in New York, Mary.
Mama, you.
On a more serious note. My mother was 21.
Okay.
When she gave birth to me.
21, very young.
21 years. No, a student of Poly.
Okay.
And
she a side chick.
Side chick. Pregnant for a very married man.
Okay.
He had 4 abortions.
Okay. I was
the 5th.
Okay.
And my father wanted me out. So Manisika.
So
2 cities at a time. 2 cities the tears are low. But I don't blame my dad so much on that score. And essentially because I was later to know that the wife was also pregnant.
Okay. Yes, and the side chicken so pressure bar.
Faced with a choice. I don't know what bride would choose, but
okay.
But that is the decision he took.
Okay.
And he was later to learn a couple of weeks later that the abortion was not carried out.
Okay.
And the one I was started said my mom should use the 2 cities to take care of herself and unborn baby.
Wow.
And it was quite challenging for my mom, having to spend money he had gotten from the sale of his cloths and jewelry at every point. Fortunately, she worked at SNIT, or more SNIT for about 38 years. SNIT normal salaries a year. And no boy.
Okay.
Until I went through school, I called Mass.
Okay.
I'm called Prempeh College.
Okay.
Well, and he said, I played soccer. Okay, Solomon Krenzel.
Yeah.
I mean, in Labo border.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, in the areas are near police depot.
Okay.
And you're Bobby Pay.
Wow.
Now, Joe Debra Bomayeng.
Okay. Okay.
I was part of that team.
Oh.
I played soccer for Prempeh College. I played soccer for KNUST.
Okay.
But Mikai said, me Dean being a home as a Mozart. Have you seen any Americans to them playing football? Because the fear was that I had no pride. Training also call, it could distract you from your studies.
That time, so quite no boys here, Kubolo of
Ejuma.
The medical student, the Okobo was saying,
Pijama name Chewa, Yambesho. Well, that was it. I loved soccer and everything. But it was tough growing up because there were times when who's our papeni?
I want to be
or sorting for out.
No, a job life, man.
Now, dear. And my Kaiser, National Service, I was posted to Upper West. And Prempeh College had given me a letter saying that they wanted me to come and teach core science, as then was now integrated science, and elective chemistry. My father came there, saw me. He had come in to change and for postings for them and conform.
Now you're supposed to call.
Yes. Papa be a friend Colonel. Now Kumasi Metro on director. Bear 4. No say. That's where you know 435 area. I'm saying I know say no change mommy. I'm call. I say I'm go share na beti fin. Sike wo hu nyina mpega de man.
Oh, that's nice.
Because look. But for him, the only idea I knew about Upper West then was that Nani Capital and a book no. That was it. That was all I knew.
Okay.
And it would have been very difficult for me if I had gone there. With the TV on. I was papa na kotokana 20 no you're responsible.
Yeah.
As a Kwachi, Joe Debra, Michael Ose, umunyana mu and boys. Only as a Kwachi mu koye Edumo Cultural Center.
Yeah.
Barbara Man mo.
Yeah.
Sankofoni nya. And or you say request your manima. Na only one now for na teo. Se me no one busuafo na teo. Bunyina mu nim se papa ni. Wa bobot ni manyina ni no amodi. Afi dem ho ID. Ubi we pie. Ubi sam se me hu akoko ni an bedi na chipe.
Wow. And it's very tough for you. I mean,
It was. Unim tried.
You know,
look, tried as my mom did. It still had an effect because my mother noticed that there was, it had the potential of affecting me adversely.
Yeah.
And to try to make up for it. But look, it was in here.
Yeah.
So it was tough. And incidentally, we bear striking resemblance to each other.
Yeah, very. Very.
But you see, I believe that the Nyame baby it was for a reason. Today, I get the opportunity to talk to people who are going through similar experiences.
Okay.
And I believe that my story to a large extent emanated from angle. Our system is such that, and I'm saying our system because that's what I'm very familiar with. Say, your resort is to religion.
Yeah.
What the religion? I say,
Addai Mensah,
but it helped because I prayed like my whole life depended on prayer, and I studied hard like my whole life depended on studying hard.
Okay.
And it gave me a certain balance because what it is, you say, I somehow, I thought that, say, if I didn't do well, my father would be happy.
Yeah. And your mother would be sad.
And I didn't want him
to be happy.
happy. And then what I could do was to ensure, say, me cramia.
Did you about one other siblings?
Yeah.
I was try to.
Yeah. You see,
did he eventually?
No, eventually, he came home with. Okay, also answer. No, a regional minister.
Yes.
Down for pa, no, no, and two others. So my dear came, so the SCBR. But that I had finished medical school.
Why you be?
What I say? Do I ask them? Say why now?
Okay.
Because you have known this all along.
Yeah.
Nana Brefo Boatin, and Nana Brefo Boatin did. Bibia no Bisham. I don't know if you know Nana Brefo Boatin. No, too for education fund. At some point on the day,
okay, yeah, because you know,
baby Bisham Bibia no Mamisika. Adia actually but that was it. And I remember Prempeh College at some point they sent me the rice with the spoon, the rice and beans. And they sent me swama, I'm saying yet. They sent me call friend Papa Mra. Because Espe knew who my dad was.
Okay.
He knew that he was my dad.
Okay.
And I'm so one day call friend I don't live with him. He has no hand so far as my education is concerned. It was a brief moment of quietness and
because you wonder, say,
But hey, enuna nyame pe.
Okay.
Because look, I have always said that there are 3 reasons. 1, I know you're a student of the Bible. Okay, disciples with Jesus met a man who was born blind.
Yeah.
They were asking him, say, then Bonnie be away, they don't say man can't James and Nema will be said. 2, the opportunity I have to tell people who are going through similar experiences today.
Yeah.
Being to what?
Yeah.
You don't know how it feels like. I mean, I said when my stepfather passed, I mean, in a close power, but they do
Wow.
then that's when I realized that anytime a friend lost a loved one or a relative, now because I know how it feels like it was a lie. You don't know how it feels like if it hasn't ever happened to you.
Yeah.
What the mention as? And it gives you the opportunity to be able to talk to people and say, I've been there. I know how it feels like.
Yeah.
But this is what is going to happen. This is what is going to happen depending on what you do today.
Then on the flip side,
Yes.
when you also see based on and I say you man bepe be ma worry back you know
There be.
O cancer school of if
Why
be with there na as of money now okay but say
next one so Mr.
as a side chicks okay so as a side chicks
as a buyer
but be maybe and try one of the things
Right.
One of the things is be maybe and try
Right.
whether it's a mistake
There's only many more.
with the material but that's the say mistake na bana wa baby you keep your responsibilities as a man.
Yes.
One of the things
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the child did not ask to be born.
Exactly.
He did not ask to be born.
Yeah.
Until you owe him or her a responsibility.
Yeah.
That I agree with you.
Well, a spiritual father,
Yes.
Reverend
Victor
Victor Kusibuati.
Right.
I'm saying he's been in the news.
Yes.
I know so very close to him.
Yes.
Personally, somebody I admire.
Right.
Now, me share no signs and tokens no cars by the 9th of December. You're talking 7th. It's about the 9th of December. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia will be declared president. I'm shaming.
Right.
See,
I wish I was a prophet to be better able to explain these things to you. But I am not a prophet.
but eventually it didn't come to pass.
Yes.
Only I knew.
Unim, I have always believed that prophets see in part and they prophesy in part. The challenge we have is when we are made to believe that because you are not the architect of life.
Yeah.
And the decisions as to DBC and net DBC of China does not rest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. The truth is also this, that this is not the first time a prophet has prophesied. And the prophecy, no. Amen. In the Bible is replete with prophets who prophesied, and yet the prophecies did not come to pass. I am not suggesting that, and so it is necessarily okay.
Yeah.
Because what it is that if you are told that this is what I heard from God, this is what I heard God saying, you should ask questions. I'm sure that is the reason why you are asking.
Yeah, because
the question you're asking.
I'm shaming, honestly.
Yes.
Me tell say okay, you know. It's the treat here said and me tell the explanation. No?
Right.
I mean, genuinely, honestly, I didn't really buy into it.
Right.
Maybe I'm coming. Based on the fact that say
win
coming. Based on the fact that Obianim say if I'm Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia relationship.
Yes.
So people might think that
say based on the
relationship, I don't know
the emotions,
the
kind of things that were happening.
Exactly.
I think I share in that view.
Yeah.
Say if giving those circumstances, the exigencies, in his shoes, you would not have made such a public announcement
Yes.
of that which you believed
exactly.
God had revealed to you.
Yeah.
But that if even you go ahead and tell people, it will be people in your
inner circle.
I think that you have a point.
Oh, medical person.
Right.
See, everyone's about to do baby Edri.
Right.
Given the opportunity.
Right.
Say we are, and then Kibianka on our advisor president.
Right.
That time, president. Some national cathedral.
Right.
Would you have advised him to?
Okay, so
go ahead with that.
So I had issues with the National Cathedral. One, the location. It's because I believe that the National Cathedral, if built, had the potential of, a friend is saying, opening up the local economy of wherever it was situated.
Exactly.
And so I felt that if, for example, the National Cathedral was stationed at Kintampo,
exactly.
Can you imagine what would happen at Kintampo? So
Hotels.
The economy concerned.
Apartments.
Because
shops.
Because the understanding was that traffic was going to be directed in
we also about reason to come.
Maybe if I was president, I would have found ways and means of getting all of us as a country to understand that and so when it happens that state funds are being used, for example, it does not become a challenge.
Okay.
So
you get the nations buy-in.
Once you get, but I think that one of the challenges here, say, okay, any state funds, then eventually, MC state funds, say yes, say we were not told the truth so far as the source of funding are concerned. But in principle, and I said this on radio at some point, I think it was on Angel, said the president made a statement at the time that the National Cathedral is a priority among priorities. And I disagreed with the president because my understanding of that statement was that if we had $1 and were to choose between a hospital and the National Cathedral, we would choose the National Cathedral. I absolutely did not agree with the president when he made that statement. And I said it openly in public that no, it cannot be a priority among priorities.
Yeah. Well, I also said it some time ago. I don't mean to say why you think of a cathedral before a hospital. Because cathedral on the between agenda 111. So I was thinking that no, we but before we.
No, but sometimes we're not doing the bar first. Because they all kind of makes it look as if say we have a blueprint.
Okay.
National Cathedral also.
And we also and the SCB we answer.
It's okay, we answer. But sometimes the AC say we na ba into our start committing to it.
Okay.
And then at some point, Ababe say, oh, a friend say, when you say so. But that time now we not started that all.
Yeah, that's true.
What I say. But I agree with you that see a tuning in go at the get-go. Let's say we see you choose the Abbey first. I will not choose National Cathedral as the first to be built.
You choose a hospital.
I will not. Because you see, as we speak, if Sewa was on stream, if Afari was on stream,
very easy pressure.
Look, the medical expertise Confanoche is supposed to be providing.
Yeah.
I'm an IFA. Because as it is, Obi Wofufu na Wama Bonensa.
Confanoche.
Yes. Yeah, go to say.
Yeah.
A few stitches. But I'll be back on Confanoche. So that's the challenge. And so, with this, and giving my background, I believe that we need not necessarily build brick and mortar to have God with us.
Okay, it's true.
But the mention
it was
into priorities. I think that giving at the same time a hospital, a National Cathedral, if I be for school, I will not go for a National Cathedral as the first one.
Yeah.
Okay. I have been to very many health institutions around the world, and maybe more cathedral, not a cathedral, but a chapel.
A chapel, yeah.
About my distressed, and then in Kika relatives, in Kika, me ako bompire. Confanoche ni bibiasa But if I had money today, between building a chapel and a diabetic center. You think I'll build a chapel?
No.
I will not. But it is when because there are halls, you bet me a double as a praying area.
Yeah.
And when they have come to see their relatives.
Exactly.
But when it is that we have almost exhausted, let's say, baby, you hawk a crab in here, yes, aha, we a cremoni with me a bompire, we a Christo new with me a bompire, near Sia, and I see a sea crebo for dear,
yeah,
a Christo for dear. Why not?
Of course.
But I will not prioritize building a chapel
ahead of a hospital. Not on any day. WKB show, yani Professor Dr. Med Ochre Addai Mensah, and yani Chinkomo. Na nkomo ni mo de. On say almost signaling like a crabby. Mommy, your time kaka. Na me who be 15 minutes with the fan. So, Ubo boy, the team men are supporting.
Me Kotoko fan, obviously. Na local league at some point, me jaya.
Okay.
And it was basically because of fixed match phenomenon. Because here Bobby me buy and we are near my dry line, so match is now fixed.
And you will die.
Oh, Davy.
But Europe is team Ben are supporting.
Who him? Liverpool,
okay.
And my support for Liverpool dates back. Gerrard India.
Oh, okay. What then about Gerrard?
I loved him.
Okay.
His temperament.
Yeah.
He was a very good player. Had a lot of respect.
Yeah.
And was very respectable.
Yeah.
I just loved him.
Yeah, that's true. Well, like your family life, how do you do it? Because what you man always see, it takes virtually all your time. There are times when you have to be on the go. Your friend was also how do you manage?
Once upon a time, not too long ago, my girls, I have 3 girls.
Okay.
18, soon to be 19, 17, soon to be 18,
okay.
And then 13, soon to be 14.
Okay.
I'm going to catch them if you are Addai Hotel. Although I had the opportunity to drive around before me, the school.
Okay.
It's a very cherished period.
Okay.
Where I have the opportunity to be doing more and then kick out. And usually I know because of traffic situation, you have some time.
Yeah.
I will be doing I was hurt when they said that. And so, I said that weekend, I mean, call a friend say cinema,
okay.
Or hall, friends or call movie. I hear him in pet, but
just to be around.
I had to do a lot of explanation. Way to say, Intia, this is why I've had to do this. We are surrounded by such a great crowd of witnesses. There are many people who hope that we fail. And that if I fail, it has repercussions on them. Yeah. So I'm giving it my best shot, said the Beya. And I have a very supportive wife.
Yeah.
Irrespective of Neshedel, he's with the AG now.
Okay.
Irrespective of Neshedel, she makes sure, and she's a trained teacher.
Okay.
And no more homework, and then she was taking care of those, and then kick home. And God has blessed us with very responsible kids.
Okay.
Well, I can say attitude because
yeah.
And they also number. God bless us with very responsible girls, and so that has been it. We go to church together every Sunday. My first girl no university, but our Befi, near church together. We sit together. And then when it's time for her to go to school, she goes to school. On the weekdays, it doesn't me free how I'll go back and then tidy up a few things before I leave. And then they have exams coming up. Until my busy and go play with them a little bit, and then and
I'm few ones and say, oh, the book who be proud to so Professor Doctor now a lawyer and I'm few the book. I have argument, but my argument. Lord Becca law was answer the
only my dear. First time I'm here radio pa.
Yeah.
Into Peja Bibi Bana me house, must any radio station. Radio no. Argument ne kwa ultimate for Bibi awaka.
Yes,
yeah. And yet they need the main issue, but
yes.
I say be awaka.
Exactly.
No capitalize on no because it gives you points.
Yeah.
and then we'll laugh over it.
Okay.
And then kick on. But she's the CEO of the house.
Okay. Yeah.
And everybody knows.
Is it women are better managers
of the home? Yeah. And crying him said, and the managers are among corner and coca. That you can open his mammy bar now, sister. That's okay. So money mammy coca first.
Now I'm from say,
and one you care for, they'll play you.
Exactly.
Oh, Mukubusa, we know Busa. John Ban was a mammy sister. So that she's busy, but what are you saying?
Yeah.
We'll make sure say we mama call back. Mama call back. We committee on.
Okay.
Because Rebecca said umunya dibi. Your wife comes and says that no, yeah, they can't do this because of anyway.
Okay.
I was okay damage.
Okay, damage. How long have you guys been married?
Okay, we've been married for 20 years.
Wow.
Wow. Out for 5 years.
So 25 years together. What children?
Say
wow.
I don't mean. On this side, no so because I am
because I Well, but I mean, 20 years. Yes. You qualified to be a marriage counselor, virtually because situation, different situations.
Right. Let me say this to you. There has never been a single time that somebody has had to come in to tell me, so yeah, Jaimanenka, and I say, Mama Jaimanenka. It has never happened.
Okay.
Never. It is not to suggest that yenya challenges.
Mama solve it.
Yeah. Okay. So anytime I go home, because Tuna, she'll meet me at the door with a kiss, and the kids know that. Ada Amasuno.
They just said, "Baby,
oh yeah, they'll tell you, Daddy, I didn't see."
Okay.
And our own person who say, until you end up patching up. And one thing we have learned together, I say, don't talk, don't write when you are angry.
Okay.
You say things, you write stuff that you regret later.
Yeah.
See this. Yeah. It's been a guiding principle. And say, maybe both and then there.
Okay.
She'll be quiet. So I'll be quiet.
Okay.
At a later time, when emotions have settled, everybody home come and say, I say in an American so.
If was going out for those 5 years, no? Emma better.
Yeah.
Emma my good couple.
We went out for was it 5 years? We broke up for 1 year.
And came back.
Then when we came back, 3 months later, we got married.
Oh, wow.
Well, nah.
Can be reason why you broke up, but in some country.
And that's what I make. I think that I know her very well.
Okay.
And she knows me very well.
Okay.
We know each other very well. And Eboa, because, right, there are questions you'd ask me here and now. The answers I give you. Chichirimetua, Jimmy phone. Neko busano. Similar answers.
Okay. Wow.
Wow. We okay on the marriage counselor bit.
Yeah.
We say I don't believe in marriage counseling.
Okay.
I don't believe that say necessarily.
Or some counseling.
No, but now no near and some. The fact that it worked for Bright
doesn't mean it
worked for me. It may have worked for everybody.
Yeah.
But different scenarios, different people, different backgrounds, and I could do with advice.
Okay.
But sir, regimented idea. So some about as if says more man no and worry because it's not.
Asim sia also mo yin say. Say you na ho machi. No. Na nakasa.
No. Sometimes obu ha na obre e kwa ho machi na otimida. Ukonyane ne sa time na. And the bufu. And the bufu eba.
Yeah.
What the mention it's not everybody who has circadian rhythm no. Say on any day na at this time. Oh, sorry. At this time, on that deep into no.
Okay.
We differ from each other on several fronts.
Okay.
But since you brought it up on counseling, have you noticed that, quote unquote, merely because be a pastor, as it qualifies him as a marriage counselor.
Yeah, that's how it's beginning to look like, though.
Sure. I have sat in a Bible study where a 25-year-old, unya broken heart crowd, on how to handle strife in marriage. And now him, with this level of marriage experience, Lord Ziko Pogunti.
Yeah,
with the level of experience in marriage. Now, broken heart when you be there. How to handle strife in marriage?
Share
on worry you
because of your sovereignty.
Yes, it's a problem for me.
Yeah.
What the mission I say? Yeah.
Well, finally, it's on the manner by the FBI agents.
Okay. With respect phones. Okay.
No, I was satisfied. Now, maybe friend catch them.
There be or no crowd or catching now for the woman ideas and country. No. Okay, so the idea now was so all country no. Unya worry.
Almost yes, I let you in back on the penaso.
Debbie. I honestly don't think so. And she doesn't think so either. She doesn't think that it should be her friend's business.
Okay.
Of coming to her to tell us and only girl be and a foot on the ground. No. Don't bring these things to me.
Okay.
My phone. Maybe initially. But now.
Mature.
Oh yes. My phone daho. And I know password on my phone so. But my last girl in him. My second girl in him. My first girl in him. Ono ankasa nso nim
ba obi
Debbie omo mu bie mo fa me phone bie me ma no because omo pe ope bie obi wa person or transfer credit
and
I get on normal be fa normal and it's because I have given them the chance who here credit go on my phone and buy credit, transfer credit to your phone. But say me afa me phone say
kind message
no a chepa
we friend a catch and say how
David.
And girls be
Debbie. Now, baby, I agree. I'm the chief executive officer of the second largest hospital in Ghana. Now, up to me, say, Sebi, and maybe it's not baby. What conclusion is saying?
See, we shape back with the there.
It will be a shape there. Only for me, oh, shape, only for
well, it's been an interesting conversation. But a foot so bare now, the my young up and coming people,
right?
Especially, I know, say marriage is a huge institution, and me know I dream. I've never believed in counseling,
right?
Me why counseling call back come into come me kwa sema no mo kan na yi bansa na no kwa no looking at when you
right medical school first year I second year kamiwu
sir
me say me dey aduane gu manu as anwea now in those times were public hall na me now for na by kotena cocktail me ni yes e jika kra bi pe no ma pejatu yeah. At the time, medical school near exams at the beginning of the semester, like the year. And me carry paper be anatomy. Me who fortunately you try paper no because examiners me who pass questions. At the medical school pass questions regulated. It be after 5 years and some as a pass questions about thing. And once there's a pass question out the questions compromised until was you trim. Minyamiano.
And again, I didn't know.
Hey, Jack. There was this guy, me Muddin, because Muddin and guy, or Barney uncle, now me snake flats is here, block 5. I was living alone in my 2-bedroom apartment. And Oberhishani uncle was blocking him, or Barney uncle in here. So he stayed with me for 2 weeks.
Okay.
In the ABA school. Yeah, but Conanos, Jack. Something there for tell you, big brother, about your girl, this guy. Hey. I'm far from my friend, my first roommate. And I'm saying, Charlie, Also, maybe they tell me something. Say so. I say, oh, well, we know about Charlie, and we know if we tell you.
Oh,
you don't know how.
You said that's how I last went out.
I'm my friend, my second roommate. I say, oh, no, buggy on the same thing. I'm saying, Jack. Now when I'm Queens or Hornma, no more mommy fans. It's all my boy.
Almost.
And the two be a fans in the doors.
As I was saying, yeah, you
That's a great.
of the fans, the doors will be
A chair, me be who and I'm saying, in Tia, Jack, Gabi be me.
Okay, dear.
Yeah, bright. Yeah. Oh, ufa phone na ask me busy for tour. To busy in there fa. What's up, fa?
Easy. Anyway,
Uchu Musa. Uchu Uchu.
Anyway. Well, I'm not telling him about Bibi wants to first advice here.
Yeah.
I mean, what you went through. Maybe our brand team so baby. Or ambition to be great, maybe or a family. The man you may be advice had been many parkour. Now second one also, or they are also with marriage. A lot of young people and a lot of young people are branded back what you say green. Our power come once one person be based on you maybe our own.
Okay.
And so advice had been more.
Okay, generally, bright. I believe that there is something to learn from more experienced older folk. And so as I sit here, I have two very sharp mentors.
Okay.
On any day, no matter what it is, I trust their judgment. I'll fly it with them.
Okay.
Because you see, a dear for one, yana o juni ye no,
Yeah.
until the mom, once you trust their judgment, they come back to you and tell you, say, look, yeah, I deal with say.
Okay.
Many young men and women of today do not have authority figures in their lives.
Okay.
But
and some friends.
Yes. They have no experience. What I say, sebi in previous and nyansa di nyansa fa obra ho na ankasa no omu nibi. Enti omu afutu be na ombiti mediamo. Enti when you have such people in your life, na you defer to them issues, especially when you have become emotional. Wow. I'm saying, yeah, we will be in the sea, we will be in the sea, we will be in the sea. Sometimes, unya, like I say now, I'm saying, no, you won't do that. And it's as though, as a more commando, they don't see it as a any control, no, but they see it as them being stakeholders in your life.
Yeah.
And that the decisions you take will not only affect you, it will affect them because they are associated with you. Yeah. So they want the best for you because they want the best for themselves as well.
Yeah.
And so when you there are certain mistakes you won't make. And you no, hasten slowly. Because if I say. There are times when you're in the public space and you're brazy.
Yeah.
If you see our own friend, hey, we have seen this. You are not doing this. You are not doing that.
Okay.
What the mention? And you respect them. You trust their judgment, and you go by what they say.
Okay.
On the issue of marriage, I want to say, knowing your spouse or your partner very well is important.
Yeah.
Sebi, aware enye dwamanya duro.
Yeah.
And so if there are signals, now ususu say me worry na ebejaya, forget it. That is not it. Oh worry na, that is who he is.
Yeah.
But if I know you very well and you know me very well, let's say a warrior, there is very little to fight over. But a lot of people mistake the length of time I've known someone with how well I know the person.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
there are people who may have been with you for only 3 months, but only more.
Yeah.
A chain.
You're
not 5 years. Reasons. If you are how busy are opening up.
Yeah.
Amano. And Nedika. 2. How diligent almost so omoye.
Yeah.
And to say if you don't allow him, no so apply no diligently. Enya de obi But it is so important. Our backgrounds are different.
Yeah.
Also, toothpaste, me and say, what I say, also so no, me say,
Na bakakra.
Nenkeka. I'll say this here. Me rare fear, me cost row, and so form on the mirror Romeo. Me raka. It is raw. No be dibachi. And only sometimes we laugh about this.
Yeah.
Say, hey, man. Well, it's all quite need do it. We don't fight over these things.
Yeah.
Because as a baby is here, as a me home we ye me try kakra. Oh. Enti. Nanze na me this year is a for hospital neighbor. This is me maternal. Friend say
Laundry basket
number form.
Okay.
And yeah, I know a year. It solves the problem.
Yeah.
And or no na. Yes, I
manage. Yeah.
I didn't have to. So I never will miss here.
Yeah.
Not until we understand each other in those ways.
Okay.
But Brian, thank you very much for having me here.
Thanks for coming. I enjoyed it so much. And definitely also a part two.
Don't worry, anytime.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Well, the BKB show, yani Professor Dr. Med Oche Addai Mensah. Confanoche Teaching Hospital CEO, and you're not common. A lot about life. And you can be sure say, baby, how to be honest with you, kakra. And they say, you be a, me sure with you, baby, pa, me Johnny. Where there be you be out in us, also to us. I'll be because of come up. Next week, you're essential. We did the bright can come body. The BKB show near the bro. It's your essential, baby, next week. Yakram.